because you can't even say slavery was bad now in the Republican Party. That's how far it's gone. And that's not even Trump who had the policy. It was DeSantis.
It is a profoundly important note to make about that moment with Congressman Donalds and DeSantis and the party writ large. That here you have one of a handful of black Republican members of the United States Congress who are Republican, saying what he rightly should have said. This idea that, you know, black folks actually benefited from slavery is just crazy, right? But then DeSantis coming, you know, clapbacking on him the way he did. But notice, none of those members that were pushing him out to be the next Speaker of the House, none of them came out and said, you know what, A, don't mess with my boy. B, he's right, right? No one. And so that again tells you about the Trumpian narrative. You go into this space thinking you're locked arms and you're all kind of moving the same way. You're not, baby boo. You're not.
You're useful until you're not useful. You're by yourself.
You're useful until you're not. And that being not useful can happen as quickly as Congressman Donalds.
It's hard to believe that we are actually doing this. It's hard to believe we're having a conversation that is predicated on the brilliance of Joy Reid, Kamala Harris, the mainstream media, and their Democratic Party. But we are. Because there are some Republicans that are more interested in winning a primary than they are the general election. And they're willing to say things that aren't true in order to do so. Very sad day for people who thought a lot of Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida, and United States Senator Tim Scott, because both of these guys have been okey-doke. Now, Joy Reid and Michael Steele and all those guys, they're clowns. They work for MSNBC. Michael Steele is one of those Republicans that hates all Republicans while claiming he's just against Trump. That's never been true. But these other guys, huge mistake on their part doing what they're doing here. Mostly because they know what they're doing is wrong. And if they don't, that might even be worse. So let's go through what actually happened here. Here's Ron DeSantis. What is he doing? Well, he's talking about how the standards say that slavery was beneficial. Education standards in Florida say that slavery is beneficial to black people. Now, the standards don't say that. California standards have a very similar question. And national AP stories focus on a similar thing as well. It's a lie. And Ron DeSantis never supported the idea that slavery was beneficial to black people. But the media and their Democrats are running with it. Sadly, Republicans are running with it as well. So it came up today, and now we're pretending that we don't understand what's happening because we're being dishonest. So here's what he actually said.
Were there beneficial aspects to slavery?
That's not what the curriculum says.
What do you think?
No, it's not. And the curriculum is very clear. You have, I think it's like 200 plus pages of all kinds of stuff that you can't read that. Have you read it?
So what's your opinion?
Have you read it?
I'm asking your opinion.
But you haven't read it, so I'm just making that clear. That makes it very clear about the injustices of slavery in vivid detail. So anyone that actually read that and then listens to Kamala would know that she's lying. And that particular provision about the skills, that was in spite of slavery, not because of. The AP course has made that same point. Other courses have made that same point. Nobody said anything about that. And Dr. Allen and those people will say, look, this is what was used post-bellum when these folks were doing stuff. So that was very, very clear. And I would just say, you know, people can read it. But they did a very good job on it. And there can be no confusion about where they would come down on that.
Yeah, because the guys who are saying these things haven't read it. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. But there's no excuse for guys like Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida, to say things like this. The new African-American standards in Florida are good, robust, and accurate. That being said, the attempt to feature the personal benefits of slavery is wrong and needs to be adjusted. That obviously wasn't the goal, and I have faith in the Florida Department of Education that they will correct this. Now, the problem with that is, of course, that's not what it says. But Byron Donalds has sort of backed himself into a corner here. What he should be doing is coming out and saying, yeah, my bad. I got over my skis. I listened to the wrong people. I said the wrong thing. And the American media is sort of framing this like a fight between Byron Donalds and Ron DeSantis, which is exactly what they want. but it still doesn't make any sense. So here comes the media asking Ron DeSantis about that.
But was picking a fight with Congressman Donalds on this?
It's not picking a fight. It's, look, at the end of the day, Floridians should stand up for Florida. Don't side with Kamala Harris and liberals who are demagoguing this. These are people that worked really hard on this. Our State Board of Education approved it. You had nobody raising a ruckus about this until it became convenient to try to do it. So I would just say, I'd ask all my colleagues in Florida, stand up for your state. Don't side with Kamala Harris.
All right. Governor, thank you for taking a few minutes. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and the real issue here is that they're wrong. I wouldn't even make this a thing about siding with Kamala Harris. I'd make this a thing about them being wrong on the issue. That's the important thing here. They're wrong on the issue. They're wrong on all of it. And that's very unfortunate. It's also unfortunate to see Tim Scott buying into this nonsense too. But he did. Tim Scott's running for president, and he's buying into this nonsense.
As a country founded upon freedom, greatest deprivation of freedom was slavery. There's no silver lining in freedom, in slavery. The truth is that anything you can learn, that any benefits that people suggest you had during slavery, you would have had as a free person. What slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that. And listen, people have bad days. Sometimes they regret what they say, and we should ask them again to clarify their positions.
They should ask you to clarify your position because you clearly don't know what's actually going on. And this is crazy. These people sound like the folks on television on MSNBC and CNN saying things they know aren't true because they think there's a political benefit to it. So once again, let me play to you what Ron DeSantis said when reporters asked him about this, and he made it crystal clear.
Were there beneficial aspects to slavery?
That's not what the curriculum says.
What do you think?
What the no, it's not. And the curriculum is very clear. You have, I think it's like 200 plus pages of all kinds of stuff that you can't read that. Have you read it?
So what's your opinion?
Have you read it?
I'm asking your opinion.
But you haven't read it, so I'm just making that clear. That makes it very clear about the injustices of slavery in vivid detail. So anyone that actually read that and then listens to Kamala would know that she's lying. And that particular provision about the skills, that was in spite of slavery, not because of. The AP course has made that same point. Other courses have made that same point. Nobody said anything about that. And Dr. Allen and those people will say, look, this is what was used post-bellum when these folks were doing stuff. So that was very, very clear. And I would just say, people can read it. But they did a very good job on it. And there can be no confusion about where they would come down on that.
I mean, all of this is crystal clear what's happened here. They saw an opportunity to ding DeSantis, so they did. That's all it was about. It was just a net benefit that they could try to ding all Republicans as just giant, vile racists who think that slavery was good. Who's having that debate? Nobody is ever having that debate because it's stupid. And to imply that they actually believe that is actually really insulting. I feel bad when people say stuff like this because you know they don't believe it. Nobody believes this. Even if the text was as they described, slavery was beneficial to African Americans. To imply that that was done out of a source of malice is just silly. And that's not even what it says. He's right. It's in spite of slavery, not because of it. It's a sign of black resilience after slavery. And to pretend that people don't understand that is just so insulting, but so typical of our politics today. And to see Tim Scott fall into this and to see Byron Donalds fall into this, it's just nuts. I'm shocked. I mean, we've seen Donald Trump not necessarily get into himself, but his supporters definitely have online. So I give him credit for staying out of this. I wish he'd come to the defense of Ron DeSantis, but Donald Trump's not going to do that. He is running a campaign against him. But getting in and weighing in on this way is completely inappropriate and silly. You got to push back against these things. There's something that are more important than winning the news cycle of the day. And to give this any credence like it's even remotely real is totally embarrassing. for these Republicans. And I think they'll regret it. They will regret it, and I think they will backtrack on this. Again, AP Sanders nationally ask the same question. Kamala Harris in the past has backed a similar standard in curriculum. This has been in Florida curriculum far before they redid this here recently. This is not real, not true, and every single person involved, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, Kamala Harris, Joy Reid, Michael Steele, every Democrat who's saying this, every Republican who's saying this, all of them know this is absolute garbage, but they don't care because they're looking for the short-term political gain.